Welcome to another enlightening episode of Whispers of the Womb, where we delve deep into the world of holistic well-being and self-discovery. I'm Suzanne Lawson, your host, and today we are joined by the incredible Ina from sunny California. In today's episode, Ina takes us on an extraordinary journey through her personal wellness voyage. Her story began 2 decades ago when she faced the daunting diagnosis of multiple sclerosis while juggling a full-time job and caring for her young children. Ina shares how she not only coped with the physical challenges but also tackled the often elusive issue of managing stress in her life. Ina's journey led her through a transformative path from exploring alternative therapies like acupuncture to fully embracing yoga and meditation. Her dedication and resilience shine through as she describes her profound experiences during yoga teacher training, Reiki mastery, and her ultimate evolution into a quantum practitioner. As Ina guides us through her multidimensional approach to wellness, she reveals her expertise in helping others navigate their own energy and uncover hidden aspects of their lives, including ancestral ties and karmic connections. Join us as Ina unravels the mysteries of harnessing energy for women's wellness, offering insights into how we can transform our lives on every level. So, welcome, Ina. It's been lovely to have you here. And I'd love for you to share with the listeners a little bit about your wellness journey and your business, Quantum Alchemy. So, I'll hand you over to our listeners.
Thank you so much, Suzanne, for bringing me on today. It's such a pleasure to speak with you, especially on this topic, because I know we are very aligned in the work that we do. So I'm really thrilled to be here. My wellness journey started about 20 years ago, maybe even a little before that, when I was having some really strange symptoms and was back and forth, to the doctor and neurologist for about 3 years, and was finally given a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis, which was a bit devastating. I had 2 young children, and I was working full time, and I didn't quite know what to do with that. And so I did a deep dive into how to take care of myself. I was on medication that didn't work very well, but I changed my lifestyle completely and started changing my diet and all of that. And fast forward 10 years, and I had a pretty good handle on it, so I thought, but the stress piece was the piece that really threw me off. Yeah, and it was the piece that I just couldn't get a handle on. And I thought, this is crazy, So I was teaching full time. My kids were in middle school and high school, and this was 2012. And I had a series of life events that included a very serious life-threatening illness and 3 episodes of MS. And if you're familiar with MS, that's not a good thing. Yeah, in 1 year. So my life fell apart, essentially. And that came from the health piece. And that was the piece that really scared me. So I really needed to do something about it. And I took time off from work, from my teaching position, just a disability break, and spent literally every single day, almost all day, taking care of myself. And that included acupuncture, and I'd always practiced yoga, but not seriously. It included restarting yoga. This is the first time I started meditation seriously. I got into emotional freedom technique and became certified in that. And then I began my yoga teacher training, and that was a 3-year journey to 2015 that changed my life. And I still get chills when I talk about it, because yoga to me was so life-changing and so healing in so many manners and so many aspects that I will forever be grateful to the practice of yoga and my teachers and those that kind of led me on that journey. So and so then I became a Reiki master through years after that, and then just really started practicing and teaching Reiki and yoga to other people, and just found that the journeys just opened wide up for me energetically. And so here I am now, years later, as a quantum practitioner, which just means that things just go deeper for me. I'm able to see aspects that aspects of ancestral lines and shadow aspects and different experiences, what we might know as the lifetimes or karmic things. And it goes way deep. And I help people shift their energy because we'll talk about this I know later, but yeah, that's what I do now. In the quantum work, quantum alchemy, I coined it that because it's multidimensional. We have so many aspects of our energy that exist in the quantum in this now moment. So there's no present and past, right? I'm sorry, past and future. So everything exists in the now, even though we understand it as human beings as a future and a past. So we go into the now and we get rid of those areas, and the alchemy piece of it is the human piece of it, right? So we are these souls and spirits that exist in a beautiful, powerful human body that is merged with energy and our etherics and our spirituality and our mind and our physical body and our emotional body. And so that's the challenge of being a spirit or soul in a human body. And that's the alchemy. That's where the alchemy comes in, where we have to clear and release a lot of these traumatic experiences because, and that could be a little trauma or a big trauma. It just sticks with us, right? It stays in our body.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about yoga. It's an energy practice. It's just another energy practice, you know? So I don't teach yoga now, but I approach everything with breath and with the yoga, in the back of my mind and my being, because it's so important to move the body, because the physical body is the vessel for our energy, and it does hold a lot of our energy. So that's the work that I did.
That's beautiful. Oh, thank you so much for sharing your journey and in your story, you know, about that pain, and just, I guess, finding your own path is powerful in itself, isn't it? To actually take that time out, which is courageous in itself, to actually go, you know what, I got to stop doing what I'm doing. Let's look at this from a different angle and really just go down that holistic route and find all of those different modalities that worked for you, and now you're here doing this beautiful work for other people.
Thank you. Yeah, it was not an easy journey, and what you said about taking the time, I was not the kind of person that took time. And I'm sure there are many listeners who can understand that.
Yeah.
That was not me, right? And so I'll never forget the moment when I was standing in my classroom and this thought came in, and I know it is kind of my higher guidance now. It was like, you can take off. You can take disability. Like that actually came in. It was like, what? You know, so
you've got permission.
You have permission. Yes, yes. And so the moment that you allow yourself to have that permission, and that's a big moment. That's a big moment.
I think as empaths, well, you know, you don't even know you're an empath until maybe later on in your journey. But I think we do often need that kind of just that light or that switch to give us that permission to go out and seek those alternative ideas and suggestions. And that's where it's a beautiful journey when you start looking into where you've come from in actually quite a short space of time as well, really, when you think about everything that you've learned.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's the surrendering piece of it too. I mean, when you have kind of a healing or awakening journey, which many of us in this space have had, all of us probably in this space have had, the hardest part, at least for me, was the surrendering and the letting go and just allowing it to unfold. That was really tough, you know? And I'm sure you teach the same thing because you went through the same thing as well, right?
So after I had sepsis and it was like close to death a few times, that whole thing of, it's kind of similar to what you were saying there, is it's letting go and it's undoing a lot of what you do know and starting back from scratch a little bit. And I liked your reference there about the breath work and the energy. You know, for me, I've lived a life of pain all my life with endometriosis. So yoga was kind of my oxygen. It was my, you know, if I'm in pain, I'll do yoga, I'll feel better. I might not necessarily get rid of all of the pain, but I'll not be in debilitating pain.
That's right.
And then when I was recovering from sepsis, I couldn't do that. So I didn't have that toolkit to go to, but I still had my breath. I
That's
still
right.
had that ability to control my breath work, and the energy that you get just from doing that alone can be can be life changing. Well, it is, because we've both healed ourselves through breath work.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think about that when I don't have time to do yoga. The
Yes,
first thing I'll do,
yes,
at least I have 5 minutes to do, breath
I
of
can breathe.
fire, or yeah, or the trauma breath or something like that. Like, at least, and it clears your head, it clears the space. And yeah, it's life force. It's life force. And we just don't breathe because we don't think about it. We take it for granted. So it's a very
Granted, and we're
important
in,
practice.
and it's an important lesson to the listeners as well, I guess, or an invitation
Yes.
to listen to what me and Ina are saying. Take time, take that time, because we're all here, we're all living our lives the best that we can, and it is such just a wonderful experience to enjoy that time and really connect with your body and connect with your breath.
Yes,
Yeah,
very grounding. Yeah, and I think the breath, when you connect with breath, that's such a great point, Suzanne. You connect with yourself, you connect with your body, and we become more grounded, and we become more embodied. And a lot of
yeah,
us have been through trauma and whatnot. We are not embodied, and so that's the practice of healing. That's part of the healing process, is to become
yeah.
embodied and more
Hmm.
whole. So yeah,
Yeah.
great point. Yeah, yeah.
And so at the moment you're creating your unique coaching program. So can you tell the listeners a little bit about that, what it is and why you created it?
Sure, sure. So it is a 12-session program that can span across 90 days. That would be like one session a week, right, for 3 months. But I find that I have clients who really have a deep need to meet more than that, so twice a week. It's typically 60 minutes, but some want 90 minutes. It just depends. It's very individualized. I allow for
Yeah.
individuality within that program. But the 12 sessions is a really good, because I offer others, but 12 sessions is just a really solid amount of time for people to discover, to clear and release some really heavy stuff. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And then move into a space where they feel more empowered and can really explore what that means for them going forward. So the people that I work with would identify themselves as light workers or starseeds. So they're people who have awakened through a journey of healing, deep healing, have been to the dark nights of the soul over and over again. The professional people who have had a regular 9 to 5 and then had an awakening experience and have shifted the way they see life and their perspectives. And now they're in this space where they've come up against, they've done a lot of healing work. They've done a lot of healing work, but they're super tired, and they're
Yeah.
hitting a ceiling. So
Yeah.
they know there's something on the other side, but they've not been able to get there. So the people
Right.
that I work with have worked in many different modalities. They've been to a lot of healers, and it's been great for them, but there's something that's still needs to be unlocked and released. And so that's where the multidimensional piece comes in, because a lot of times we go into some very dark templates, very dark stuff that doesn't have to do with this lifetime, but it's very connected, because right now is the time on the planet where it's the age of Aquarius, right? So we are coming into an awakening where we're seeing things very different. And so we have access, especially with a lot of, in the science, these solar flares coming in and the electromagnetic waves coming in open up a lot for us. And so we have access to a lot of different realms and realities that we didn't have access to before. And so we're able to clear a lot of that stuff so that we can move forward, basically just with clear energy, clean energy, intent, and unity. So to really unify with yourself first so that you can serve others. So the people that I work with have a strong knowing that they're here to serve the planet, using their past experiences of their 5, but also using their spiritual gifts as well.
Right.
So yeah, that's the work that I
Yeah.
do.
That's
Yeah,
fascinating. Yeah, sounds so
thank you.
interesting.
Thank you.
So we actually met, for the benefit of the listeners, we actually met through a coaching program that we've been recently doing. And we've seen the benefits of what it's like having a coach, and now me and you have connected. We probably would never have connected if it hadn't have been for our coach.
Absolutely.
Um, and so what would you say to listeners about how valuable it is to engage with a coach as a woman on a wellness journey?
Oh, so valuable, invaluable. I can't recommend it enough. I'm trying to think how I want to answer that, because I've worked with several coaches, and each time I've gained so much wisdom and so many skills. And so I don't think it's ever a one and done. It
Yeah,
just is like whatever levels you're starting to work in your expansion and your growth, you just go to the next level or the next piece of expansion. And so I think it's invaluable, especially as a woman, because I will say that it's, to keep the energy clean. Like I don't want to go into any victim stuff at all. It's just, as a woman, sometimes we have to work in a different space. I'm just going to say that we have to work in a different space,
yeah,
and we have different challenges versus if you're a male. So I think it's really important to connect with other women who are doing the same and who envision the same as you and who hold the same energy as you, and to keep reaching for that next level all the time. So rather than being intimidated by that connection, to really use that connection and utilize the connection as your next level, because it's helping the other person as well, right? Or the other people in we're all here to have kind of, I have a dear friend who says, walk each other home. Like we're each just helping each other, get to that level. Yeah. And as far as wellness, I know I felt really, really alone when I first started. I did it by myself. I mean, back then, 10 years ago, we were not where we are right now. And I just felt really alone. So connecting with yoga, I think I told you this when we first met too, when I walked into the first day of yoga teacher training. And like within the first 10 minutes of my teacher speaking to us and us introducing, I just had the biggest wave of relief, and I almost cried. It was like, oh my God, I'm here, like my tribe, There's just no, you can't put a value on that at all. So I would highly recommend it. Yeah.
And even if, I guess, for the people who are listening, even if they're not into yoga, say, there's always other tribes out there, isn't there, that you can tap into. And what I always try and as well explain to people is yoga is more than just getting into a position. My dear yoga teacher from many years ago, she used to say, if you're not breathing, then all you're doing is making shapes.
That's great. Yes.
And
so true.
Yeah. And so, we do need to make people aware that yoga is actually breathing. It is a lot more than just moving into a shape. And yeah, that's good. That's nice what you've said about the coach, and how you're very right though. We're in a much different place to where we were 10 years ago, where there wasn't as much of a kind of, I don't know, like a global reach, if you like. I think since the pandemic, I think that's made our global reach so much more accessible. People, yes, they did do things like this before COVID, but I think it was more restricted. Whereas now people will just pick up the phone and have a video call with someone they don't know. It's a lot more kind of, I don't know, it's just, I think the world's a lot more friendlier and accessible.
I agree. And I like your comment about it doesn't have to be yoga. It could just be any shared interest, And with the pandemic too, I think, we have been isolated for a while, and being able to have that access to technology and Zoom and whatnot, Google Meet. It can be any shared interest, and there are, friendships for lifetime and connections for lifetime, and then that leads to something else. And just really important to feel like we belong to something that really moves us. And for sure.
And so speaking of yoga, what's the most unusual or unique yoga practice or variation that you've ever encountered or tried?
That's a great question. I love that question. And I have to say, I've been pretty conservative with yoga, my yoga practice. I was thinking about this. I thought, haven't really been to the wine and yoga. I haven't done the goat yoga or the dog yoga or the
No, me
aerial
neither.
yoga. Yeah. Although I would like to do aerial yoga for sure. I'm just going to say that the practice I was trained in, which is Ashtanga yoga, to me was very different because I had done Iyengar and I had done, Vinyasa, which Ashtanga is very close to Vinyasa. But for me, I'm a very free spirit and I like to try a lot of different things. And I also have a short attention span. So like I have to be very disciplined and I have a hard time with that. So when this teacher presented to me, I had never heard of Ashtanga. And I ended up studying for actually 3 years, 2 years full study. And then I did an apprenticeship under her as well. And absolutely loved it. And that changed my life. And I will say that was the most unusual for me because it was difficult. It required a lot of discipline. And Ashtanga, if you're not familiar, is this, not you so much, but the listeners, is the same series of poses through 3 to 4 series over and over again. You just keep doing them until you've mastered them, right? Yeah. And there's many ways to master them.
You never master them though, do you?
You don't. you don't ever master them.
Exactly.
And then there's a very deep philosophy around that, the 8 limbs of yoga, and very deep philosophy. It's one of the first variations of yoga that ever. It really is one of the first. So that was unusual for me because I really had to look deep inside to keep that practice going.
Yeah, to find that energy, I guess.
To find the energy
in that practice alone is so in the mind. For me, I would say it's very mind,
Yeah.
Forget about what's going on in the body. You've got to have that mind and that breath connection. Otherwise, you're never going to keep up.
Exactly. It generates a lot of heat. It's very physical. And I don't practice like I did back then, but so I still am in love with that practice. And I consider that the most unusual practice because it just, it's the same every time. But
and it's quite empowering, really, that you did that at a time when you were quite ill as well. You were, you were on that journey of getting better. You had been working at that, but you were still, probably quite ill at the time. So
I was. I mean, I had practiced before for a few months. I mean, I came off of it and then started not even a year after that. And had just been doing gentle yoga and whatnot. And so when I walked in and saw what it was like, oh my God. But the best thing was that my teacher was wonderful. And that's the philosophy of Ashtanga, is that you build over time and you have the acceptance of self for where you are in the moment.
Yeah.
And not pushing any past that and just accepting and building that practice. So
and that kind of links in with your whole philosophy of your job, of your role that you're doing at the moment, isn't it? It's being in the now.
Yes. Yep. And the acceptance of shifting and change and where you've been and not holding on to that, not holding on to that, because that's energy. Just not holding on to that, like having the understanding and the aha moments, and then just being able to let it go and move forward. And what have I learned? And now how can I take that and assist others, with that learning? Like, our journeys are really our superpower. We don't like to admit that sometimes because it doesn't feel good a lot of times, but it's true.
Yeah. I was just having a conversation with someone today, and I was sharing my story with her, and I shared this story of like 30 years in about 10 minutes, which I was probably talking quite fast. And she actually said, like, what a journey, you should write a book. And I was like, well, maybe one day, but that could take a while. But until she actually said what a journey, I hadn't actually realized what a journey I'd had until right at this moment. But
that's right. Now you're doing this beautiful work and assisting others in the same, so it's like, exactly. Yeah.
So is there anything else that you would like to share with the listeners before we wrap up?
I think the biggest thing is just that your energy is your currency. That's the way I see it. Super important.
Beautiful.
Everything is energy. Yeah. Physical body is energy. The way we think, our belief systems, the conditioning around that, where the patterns, everything, our relationships, everything has an energy to it. And so when we view it that way, we have control over that,
Yeah. And that's
Uh,
so powerful, isn't it?
it's
Yeah.
very powerful. And I remember the first time I realized that, it was like, oh, like I can change this, I can shift this. And I would just, I think that in our world today, we have more access to our power than we ever have.
Yeah.
And that includes our thoughts and what we bring into our realities and interests. So everything that we consume, and I mean bring into our energy centers. You may not have to put it into your mouth to
Yeah.
consume it. You
Mhm.
can bring it through your eyes or your ears or
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
body. Yeah, so
Mhm.
that's really important. And just to know that everybody out there is incredibly, incredibly powerful. You have the power to heal yourself. You have the power to create the reality that you desire for yourself. And it's all about choices. We have that choice. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this. It's been lovely, Ina, talking to you about harnessing energy for women's wellness. And I'm really, really pleased that you've come onto the podcast show for this episode. So thank you.
thank you, Suzanne. It's been a
Thank you.
pleasure. Thank you to everyone out there as well.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you for joining us today on Whispers of the Womb. Ina's incredible journey has shown us the power of holistic well-being and self-discovery. Her story is a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the potential for transformation in the face of adversity. Before we wrap up, I want to share an exciting opportunity with our listeners. If Ina's journey has inspired you to embark on your own path to wellness and self-discovery, consider joining our 6-month program. This program is designed specifically for women seeking guidance, expertise, and nurturing on their transformative journey to wellness. As an experienced coach who has lived with gynae pain and hormonal issues all my life, I will be your dedicated guide with a program tailored just for you. So if you're ready to take the next step towards a more vibrant, balanced, and empowered life, follow us and visit our websites for more information on how you can be part of this life-changing experience. Thank you for tuning in today, and remember, the power to transform your life is within you. Until next time, stay well, stay inspired, and keep exploring the whispers of your own inner wisdom. Goodbye and take care.